Astrology Corner, and this is your energetic reading for Sunday, March 20th, and today is the Spring Equinox, Fall Equinox, depending on where you're at in the world, and the moon moves into Virgo. So the Spring Equinox to me signifies the beginning of the Zodiac. It's just that it's a launch point. It's the change of seasons. So it's very apropos that we are also in the middle of eclipse season. We're in the middle of a lunar and a solar eclipse at this point. In about 3 days, we're going to have our lunar eclipse. And so energy is definitely building toward that cumulative ending. You know, that cumulative energy that then stimulates us to make us want to make that new beginning. So at this point today, the sun is in 0 degrees in Aries, which is very important to understand. It's in the 0 degree mark of a cardinal energy. So spring to me is that time that signifies springing forward. For some of you, it's a time of falling back and reflection. Depending on where you're at, it's very important for you. But either way, either energy source that you're attaching to is very significant, because everybody goes through a state of reflection before they initiate. If they're smart, many people also initiate and don't do any reflection and then continue to make karmic cycles and learn a continuous karmic lessons. So I believe that for many of us, because Chiron has been in a Piscean energy, this is about healing energy. It's about the energy that deals with the ending of something. And I believe that that's why we're at this cumulative energy source that we are. This lunar eclipse is happening. For some of us, I believe that it has a lot to do with the ending of the cycles that we experience when it comes to others. Others often mirror where we're deficient. I think the realization of Chiron and Neptune and all of those energies, the realization is that we are inevitably looking at ourselves. And so if we're looking at our lives and our life is in a state of chaos, if there's something wrong with our life, then there's a sense of, I need to take action on something that has to do with the way that I interpret things, the way that I look at things, the impact that I have. This is a lot of energy that has to do with being responsible, how you escape, how you avoid responsibility for your life. But that's all cumulative. That's all the ending of energy, right? The ending of energy always leads to a new beginning. And the new beginning is, how do I take action and not do those things anymore? And so we're caught in that energy. So Aries energy is the beginning of the Zodiac. It is the youngest and most virile energy source that you can tap into, because it has the enthusiasm of a child. It's not tainted by life experience. It's not tainted by pain and your desire to move away from pain. It is all inspired by pleasure. So anything that you attach to on a pleasure-seeking level, as long as it's not ego-based, as long as it's genuinely innocent enough to say, I want a new beginning, I want to create, I want to manifest. I mean, that's a hopeful child, right? I mean, we've all seen children that want to move away from pain. And the reason why I'm associating all this with the childlike energy is because Aries energy rules that childlike enthusiasm. It's overly optimistic. And that's what the spring equinox to me means. Every time I get in this energy, when spring comes out, when I see things bursting forth in the soil, and you can look at it in fall, if for some of you that are in fall, as everything is going dormant, the seeds are restoring themselves. Restoration can happen in 2 ways. It can either happen through dormancy. It can happen through being complacent in energy, submitting, and that is definitely a beautiful source of energy. For some of you that are experiencing the fall equinox, for some of you that are experiencing the spring equinox, it's a springing forth. It's a spring up. It's just moving in a direction that allows light to touch, pure energy to touch, hope. You know, I like both energies. They're both very, very positive. And they both have a value that you can associate with it that's very, very healing. And I love that Chiron is still working deeply in this part of our lives to help us heal these cycles, to help bring endings to karmic cycles so that we can start fresh and new and have a new beginning. Either fall or spring can do that for you. So, for some of you, the positive vibration is this year. I want to take a look at the year. To me, this is the beginning of the year. Not so much when we as Americans think, or the New Year's. Everybody has their form of the New Year's, but in astrology we have a Zodiac New Year, and this is the beginning of that. When all the energy drops into Aries, especially when all of our personal planets start to drop into Aries, for me that signifies the new beginning and all of those different mindsets. So when Mercury drops into Aries, that's a new beginning in the way that you think, interpret, and manifest your potential, your environment. Very short-term stuff, very immediate needs. You're really, really you're all over the place. You're very busy. You're very action-oriented. That's all Mercury. When your sun is in Aries, it's all about, what do I desire on a very, very primal level? What's pleasure? It's all pleasure. On a primal level, everything is pleasure. And so you're going to want to really fulfill a lot of your immediate needs. It's going to be very ego-oriented, but I think that can be very positive for some of you that are trying to attach to, what does your ego need to feel better, to align, to be happy. You want to be happy. Life is not about struggle. Life initially, when you were younger, was all about making yourself happy all the time. And you were much more successful at that before life got a hold of you and experiencing disappointment and not getting your needs fulfilled. And then you became pessimistic and you're like, oh, everything ends in pain, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not the way that it is with all this Aries energy. It's trying to fill you with hope and potential. So this year is going to be about balance. Okay, so the nodes are in Pisces and Virgo, and of course they're always in opposition. And so what it's going to be is details, attention to details, especially routine rituals. It's going to be about balancing those with hope, pleasure-seeking, optimism, with about dreaming about what you want, potential. It's about the middle of all of those energies. It is about how you cope during adversity. That's going to be what this year is all about. It is going to make you make an action plan, and you're going to you have to stick to it. In this energy, it is all about sticking to your action plan. If you're not, that is the difference between the North and the South node. And we're moving toward accountability. We're moving toward taking action. We're moving toward taking care of the little details of manifesting a healthy lifestyle, healthy rituals, of moving away from escaping, avoiding, idealizing outcomes that could never be. It's about making positive progress in all of these areas and walking away from avoiding. That's what this year is going to be. It's going to be about, really honestly, if you're failing to maintain some of your immediate needs, and immediate needs are down to your basic health needs. Right? Are you feeding your body right? Is the fuel that's going into your body, does it sustain you? Are you taking the correct supplements if you're not? Are you too busy? Is there not enough life-work balance for some of you? For some of you that are excessive, you're going to learn to remain in a non-excessive environment. You're going to have to learn how to balance out excessive tendencies in this energy. That's what this year is going to be completely about. I'm just going to be honest, because what will happen is if you don't, Jupiter is going to expand excessive issues and make them out of control. Jupiter, whatever it touches, it expands. So it can be hella malefic if you are not maintaining balance. the way that you align with balance. For some of you, some of you don't are so used to working in extremes, you don't even know what balance is. You don't know how to maintain balance because you've never been in an imbalanced environment, not even from childhood. For some of you, you're so used to extremes that you create and sabotage anything that could be balanced because you have to have extreme because that's all you know. I believe we're moving away from that. And then realism versus idealism. Very beautiful, powerful year for that. The realization is that most of you have been living in a fracking fantasy world where you are just manifesting the potential out of freaking poof, thin air. There was nothing ever there. You attached to the good points, but you didn't accept the bad. For many of you, we've had a lot of losses. We've had a lot of endings. We've had a lot of relationships. We've had a lot of realizations. We've lost a lot. Where there's a loss, there's a gain. Honestly, life is about that. As much as I like to believe that I wish that you didn't have to have those extremes, but that is where we meet in the middle. You ever notice somebody who went through a divorce and they were completely in these relationships that suffocated them? They put on all this weight, they were in careers, or they weren't even in a career that they wanted to. They go get a divorce. All of a sudden they start working out. All of a sudden they start focusing on themselves. All of a sudden they start, manifesting a new business. They do all of the things that they never did in a relationship. Well, why? Why weren't you doing that stuff in your relationship? You want to know why? Because you were taking the easy road out. You were attaching to an ideal outcome that you weren't aligned with. That's what many of us were doing. So all those endings have happened, so that we can really attach to the middle ground. Pluto-Uranus squares were about taking away the extremes in our environment so that we were really focused on stabilizing areas in our lives that did not have enough stability for us and scared the snot right out of us. So that's what it was about. It was, where are you extreme? Let's shake, rattle, and roll that area. The realization is, I don't want to fracking live like that. And then the energy swoops in and is now where, how do I stabilize everything? How do I balance everything? How do I see the bigger picture? How do I move forward? How do I create mental stability, health-wise? It's all about empowering you. We had to be broke down first because our ego was really attaching to some of the wrong crap for a really, really, really long time. This year is about ending karmic cycles for so many of you. For many of you that are resisting, you're squaring off and going through Saturn square and a Mars square, and you're going through this Pisces square. The realization is that you've been too adaptable, that you've settled for less, that you valued the wrong things, that you idealized the wrong things, that you didn't have balance, and that the reality is it's on you. You can blame everybody you want for your problems. But my dear, I have to tell you, Saturn is going to retrograde. Pluto's going to retrograde. Jupiter's in retrograde. Mars is going to retrograde. This is all about take a look back, slow the frack down. We need to learn from our past. This is about ending and closing karmic cycles. And the only way we do that is slowing down and looking back at painful things, at unpleasant things, in order for us to associate enough pain and make progression out of pain. It's like when, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Kind of like that. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful time. I love the spring equinox. It's about maintaining control, yet liberating yourself from suppressed energy. This isn't about suppression anymore. That was the Pluto-Uranus square. Suppress, 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 withhold, shake, rattle, and roll things. Let's squeeze this lemon as tight as we can to get as much juice out of this fracking lemon as we can so that you can make a big, huge container of lemonade. I think that's what it was about. You are walking into a new chapter in your life, and your eyes are wide open. You're not a victim anymore. You're a survivor. And if you're trying to play the victim, it ain't cutting it in this energy. It's not. I gotta tell you, if you're trying to play the victim, then you're having a Mars and Saturn square off session right now that is unbelievably difficult. You are having a realization that the blame goes on you. The common denominator in your life is you. Now, did you go through sad things and loss? And were things that came up very painful to process? And were some of them disappointing? Yes. Yes. But what did that create? What positive thing can you pull from that? And then where does that lead you now? Because you're going to be like that person that got that divorce. Okay, this really crappy thing happened to you, so what are you going to do about it? Spring Equinox is all about springing forth. It's all about the details. You know? It's like if we're going to plant a seed in some new soil, if we're going to put a bulb in the soil, we have to add bone meal, right? For that bulb to really really flourish. It's got to be in fertile soil. Is there enough peat in there peat moss to hold water? Or you couldn't just take a bulb and throw it in some soil, some like clay soil that is really never going to get saturated and give this bulb enough nutrients. We have a lot of clay soil out here, and I love gardening, so I'm using the gardening analogy, but you have to add a lot of peat in order to counteract all the clay, and then we got to add some bone meal because it's really good for a bulb. And by the time you do all of that, and then the universe comes and waters this beautiful bulb, gives it all the beautiful spring water, and then it brings out the warmth in the sun. The universe takes care of the rest, but you got to add the peat. You've got to rotate the soil. You've got to do all the hard work. You've got to dig into this clay soil. Then you've got to add all the stuff. And then you've got to add some mulch on top of it. And then you've got to add the peat, and you've got to plant the bulb. That's your responsibility. The universe takes care of the rest. That's what you're doing right now. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for watching Annette's Astrology Corner. And I look forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow.